into Life is a Sacred Journey. Every week, we bring a new perspective to aging and caregiving. Here is your host, Michelle Pope.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the virtual neighborhood of Life is a Sacred Journey. I am Michelle Pope, your host, and it is so good I can't stand that cord. You see that cord over there? Let me see if I can. There we go. Get rid of that cord. It's good to see you this morning. I'm so happy you're here. It is a beautiful day in California. The weather is expected to go to like 70 something degrees, which is amazing. And so we're really excited about that. But it's really good to be with you all this morning. If you're here for the first time, Life is a Sacred Journey is a platform that celebrates life, that celebrates the role of the caregiver in our community, in our homes, in our neighborhoods, and in our worldwide. It is also a place where we have created a virtual neighborhood that we check in on each other, we say good morning, and we try to figure out how we can navigate this world together with hope and peace and all of that. And Valentine's Day will happen before I see you again, so I wore my love t-shirt for you today. Love, love. So love, happy Valentine's Day. If you are coupled up, I hope that you have a wonderful Valentine's Day. If you're not, love yourself, do something exciting and dynamic. That's my new word for this week, dynamic for Valentine's Day. I plan to actually go and get a manicure and a pedicure on Valentine's Day, because I haven't done that in a long time. To all of you who are like me that are suffering from allergies, I know because my eyes have been itching, I've been sneezing, it's a pain in the neck, but I am so happy that the signs of spring and summer are before us. And before we get started, our topic this morning, what I decided, and Felicia and I were talking, and I was looking at all the statistics, and I'm writing some grants, and there's new money from the federal government through the Older Americans Act, where there will be more funding to help caregivers who are just caregiving. And Alzheimer's is one of the biggest places where we find caregivers giving up employment, caregivers who are stretched to their max because maybe they too are elder or not feeling well, or that sandwich generation where they're caring for children and working and also caring for a mom, a dad, a grandparent, an auntie, or anyone. And so we're very excited about that. I will be in deep grant writing mode after today. Starting tomorrow, I will be here writing, because that is really good funding. And I hope that Alzheimer's Services of the East Bay will be able to participate and get some of that. So if you're thinking about me between now and the 18th, send me some great writing vibes, and because I'll be deep in it. I'm going to try to submit it the day before it's due. It's due the 18th at 2:00, but my goal is to have it done on the 17th so we can review it, make any edits, correct any language, and then have it all put together for delivery on the 18th, and by noon is my goal. 2 hours ahead of time. Okay, thank you for that. So a couple of things before we get into the topic, and I promise I will give the topic the respect that it deserves so that you can take those things back within your community. But I learned something yesterday, and I just have to share it with you in honor of Black History Month. The first Black female judge in the United States was appointed in 1939, and her name was Jane Bolin. And recently, I found this out last night watching another podcast that I love on Fox Soul. 17 judges in Harris County, Texas, Black females, were appointed. And so after, this 200-year experience, 1939, and then the 200-year experience of, just looking at the law, looking at all of that, in Harris County, Texas, there are 17 newly appointed, but there were already two, I believe, already in that I think, if I remember properly. So 19 female Black judges in Harris County, Texas. And so that is a really cool thing. So we're going to applaud that. We congratulate you, ladies, and we need diversity in our law system. And when we have diversity, then when we say to a jury or to a person that is, being convicted, or they're in whatever the situation is, when they look to the side and look to the front and they look for their peers, that they will see their peers among the decision-making of the laws. So congratulations to those women. It's not an overnight thing that happens to anyone that decides to go into the law or to become an attorney or a judge or anything. So congratulations to them. And in honor of Black History Month, this is why I lift them up. One, as a Black woman, I am very proud. Also, there is a organization I learned about. I actually sent them an email this morning because I'm going to see if I can get them on Life is a Sacred Journey. And it's called the Little Words Project. The Little Words Project is a bracelet where you pick a word of affirmation. You wear it for as long as you think you need to look down at it and get hope. And then you put it in a box. Go online, it gets its own permanent number, and then it goes out and gets sent to someone else. And then you get to see where it goes and brings hope, or whatever your affirmation word, whatever that is, you get to see your thing traveling. I think that's a great thing. So what was the name of it? Little Words Project. I'm going to get a hold of them. Yeah, this is my this is my cheat sheet, you guys, from last night when I was thinking about what I would talk about today. And by the way, art.com is an incredible organization. A lot of my art that you see framed behind me comes from them, and they have art across the different genres, and they are, of course, posters, but they will frame it for you and everything. So art.com. All right, so let's get into the Alzheimer's and dementia story. So I am, as you all know, getting ready to experience, and I'm excited about it, going through my 65th year. In May, I will have a birthday. Yay! And I'm acutely aware of the possibility of memory loss. One, it's what I've chosen to do as a career, but I'm acutely aware of my status in as an African American ethnicity, culture. We are diagnosed at a higher percentage than any other ethnicity. My age now puts me in a place where my percentage quotient goes higher of being diagnosed, all of those things. And I'm acutely aware of signs and symptoms. Now, I want to go over those with you because even I sometimes get carried away with the signs and symptoms, knowing other things are going on in my life, knowing I didn't get any sleep, knowing certain things. But I also want to make sure we understand that we are talking about a consistent decline, something that is happening and it gets worse and it continues to get worse. And so we really want to I sound like, what's the guy? We really wanna, I guess I can't remember his name. He's a cartoon character. If you know who I'm talking about, write it in the chat. But that's what I just said, we wanna. So really want to make sure that you know those things, because this is the time, if I were having any of those symptoms, now is the time to go to the doctor and have a candid conversation and to find out what's the best way of looking to find out, is it Alzheimer's? Is it any other form of dementia? Is it something else? Is it a vitamin deficiency? All of those things. But to wait and to think, oh, I'm just having a moment, when you've had those moments on an ongoing basis, is really not a good idea. And I know the Alzheimer's Association has been promoting early diagnosis for decades. And so let's think about our health status and know when a change is happening in how we navigate the world. So let me talk about the Alzheimer's Association believes and has done research that worldwide there are 50 million people living with Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. Dementia is the umbrella term that holds the different symptoms. So memory loss, unable to navigate activities of daily living, tying our shoes, brushing our teeth, all of those kinds of things. So, but 50 million people. And as I was telling a group of people yesterday, again, you can tell I'm in grant writing mode. So the statistics, I've been doing a lot of research so I can write. I found the baby boomers, so the baby boomers that, like myself, that are at the end of the baby boomer sort of timing, the last of us will be aging out of that era in 2045. And so when you look at that, if there's 50 million people living with Alzheimer's and other dementias now, what is the trajectory of the disease? And that's why the Older Americans Act dollars, and thank you Alzheimer's Association and to all of my colleagues and advocates across the country for fighting to ensure. We here in California have the master plan for aging, and I have colleagues that sat in the room to discuss that and to make that so. And so we're really pushing forward age-friendly communities, Alzheimer's and dementia care, research, caregiver support, so that it's more equalized across the spectrum of what is needed for 50 million people and the other folks that will come up after, up through, I mean, it's not going to end at 2045. It's just meaning that the baby boomers we will be at the end of our sort of generational time, not meaning we'll all be dead, but it just means that we'll all be over 65. So at that point, what are the services that we will need? We're already behind, as I came into this field here at ASAB anyway, 25 plus years or 24 plus years, we were talking about the gray tsunami. We were talking about the fact that we would need more services and care for people living with Alzheimer's and dementia. And we kind of dragged our legs on it. And here we are now, and we really need it. We need housing for people that are living alone, or people who did not have children, or who have outlived their family and friends, that is affordable and beautiful for them, similar to these other places that people can afford because they have generational wealth or have been able to be a part of the long-term care insurance system or whatever it is. We're able to have jobs where they could save. I mean, a memory care facility can cost, some of the higher beautiful places and yes, and yes, and yes, but there are people who cannot afford to live in those places, and what happens to them? What are their levels of care that also has that same sort of quality and appearance and aesthetic, but also quality in the level of care that is provided? So Alzheimer's and dementia, 50 million people currently living across the world, and that is a lot of folks. And understanding what dementia is, what causes the risk, and all of that. We know that there are some genetics that are involved in Alzheimer's and dementia. You will hear that people will say, well, my grandmother had it. My great grandmother had it. Maybe it skipped a generation, but we can go back and trace where, we heard stories that this member of our family had senility or, appeared to be lost towards their aging and into their end of life. And lifestyle and environment. We wonder, and I know there are researchers. I'm a part of a group at UCSF, a community group advisory board for some researchers that are really looking at the conditions of environment, lifestyle, and it specifically with the African American community because the numbers are so high. And so what do we need to do to look at all of those things? I remember at one point we thought aluminum was the problem. And so we were all running and getting rid of our aluminum cans and aluminum pots and pans and deodorants and things. But we now have found that's not necessarily so, because there are people who have died and autopsies have been done on their brain and they've had just as much of aluminum deposits in their brain as somebody who was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. So we figured out that's not so. So we always are learning the difference between what is really causing Alzheimer's and the reality is we don't know with a shadow of a doubt, as they say, what really causes it. We do know, we do have facts now that we know: genetics, lifestyle, high blood pressure, a person living with untreated high blood pressure, diabetes. All of these things seem to be like the precursors, and they live in the same village as Alzheimer's. Or they live in the same village of stroke dementia. Because again, if you have high blood pressure that's untreated and it goes untreated for a period of time, the probability, again, your percentage increases of having a stroke. And once you have a stroke, parts of your brain may lose its capacity, its memory places. And so all of these things affect memory and cognition as we age. Head injury. You remember we were talking about, I think a decade ago, it became in the forefront. I think Will Smith did a movie where he was the doctor talking to the NFL about head injury, falling and hitting your head. I'm constantly thinking about that because I did fall once on black ice and really banged my head hard. And had to stay awake. Banged myself up so badly that I was black and blue in my face. Yes, they did a MRI at that time. There was no damage and but you wonder, is there any residual from that? And will there be any residual from that? And so, those are the kinds of things that we think about as we get older, and we think about cognition and memory. Anytime that the brain gets jostled in any way, shape, or form, and the more it happens, if it's something that's repetitive, then the more probability you have of experiencing some forms of memory loss or dementia. So dementia, again, as I said, is the general term for loss of memory and other thinking abilities severe enough to interfere with your daily life. So that means you get in the car and you can't remember the route to take to work. You're early onset. You may be going to pick up your child from school, or you may be a grandparent picking up your grandchild, and you forget that you need to do that until somebody calls you and says you're late, and you go, oh my goodness, and you run. So and again, these are not these one-uppers. It's not the one-uppers or when you're running late because you're in a meeting or you couldn't get out of that Zoom meeting. These are things that repeat themselves over and over again. They start off at whatever time, early. If it's early onset, they start off, some people, I guess we see early as 30 something, but more in the 40s and 50 range. And then over 65, then we're probably looking at Alzheimer's. And the reality is, it's happening. The individual knows it's happening. Family members and friends may not know what's happening because they may not have disclosed it to anybody as of yet. They may be all alone with this. So if you're that person listening to this right now, if these onsets of memory loss, or where you are disoriented, not where you walk in the room and you forget why you walked in the room, unless that's happening on an ongoing basis and it's rapidly increasing in its happening. So that's when you begin to say, okay, this is too much. This is too much. I need to figure out what's going on here. And I need to be more intentional and recognize what I'm doing. Am I rushing? Am I not thinking? Am I, I do that. I rush through life. And so, as I've gotten older, I'm learning to slow down and really give myself an opportunity to think and give my brain enough time to catch up. I do the brain exercise. I do all the preventative stuff that they say. But what I have found, it really is about calming the mind, calming that space so that you can be engaging and not rushing through the door and hitting your arm on the door jamb or hitting your leg on the side of a desk or whatever. It's being intentional and being careful with your body as you age, because the more you hit it, the more you fall, the more it's going to hurt you. I mean, I have pain now from the last car accident that I had in 2016. I mean, it was 2016. And now here I am in 2022, and wow, I am in pain almost 99% of the time. And it's not like I don't have to use my cane anymore. I keep my walking stick in the car, but you will have residual from things. So keeping your body healthy, keeping your mind healthy, helps you to, as I said, excuse me, to someone. We don't know what causes 100% Alzheimer's. We know now some of the signs and symptoms. We know now some of the things to look for in the brain and all of that, the neurology around the disease. But at the end of the day, what in lifestyle, what in the food, what in the environment, and more research is showing, the way we eat, stress, all of those things play a pivotal role, and also the sustainability as you get older, because there are some people, and I know them, they have dementia, Alzheimer's dementia, but they're still navigating the world in a stage where they still know who they are. They still know who their family members are. And it's because they're engaged. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that before we end our podcast today. But I want to get into signs and symptoms, because I think people mostly are worried about those kinds of things. So anytime we talk about memory that disrupts your life in any way, you get in the car and you end up lost all the time, even with GPS, because you can't follow the GPS. You're unable to navigate the car and listen to the GPS and know and do step 1, step 2, step 3. All of those things are more confusing than helpful. So any form of memory loss or neurological, cognitive loss that disrupts your daily life. We're forgetting things in a way that it's from learned behavior. So it's not something where, okay, for instance, as you know, I'm learning how to play the acoustic guitar. I put it down during the pandemic for quite some time, and now I'm back in my classes with my professor, my teacher. He said, "Don't call him that." Teacher online, and when I first started to hold the guitar again, I was holding it like I had never held it, because I hadn't learned it yet. When I put it down, it wasn't second nature to me like Prince or Jimi Hendrix or you see who I'm trying to play like, right? or any of that. And so I had to learn it again. Now, if I practice every day and I keep having my lessons, I'm going to get really great at it. It's going to become second nature. And then if I start to forget, then that's a learned behavior. That's something that I've become proficient at. And now I seem to be losing skill. Tying your shoe, something that you learned way back in the day. And you're proficient at it. And whether you did the 2 bunny ears or whether you did it where you tied it and all of that. No matter how you learned how to tie your shoe, because I realize there's many ways to teach it. If you forget it, you completely forget how to do it, then that's something that is a disruptive behavior that you need to look at. So memory loss where it's disrupting your activities of daily living. You go in the bathroom, you forget what the toothbrush is for. You start to use the toothbrush to deal with this kind of thing that keeps falling in my face. You use the toothbrush for that instead of a brush or a pick or whatever the tool is, like Ariel did. You start using a fork to pick your hair instead of the actual pick. Things like that, because you see, the thing that happens with the brain is you see the familiarity between the two things. If you look at a fork and you look at a pick, they look like the same thing, but your cognition and your memory and all that stuff that goes on between your left and your right ear, or your right and your left ear, is the stuff that tells you what it's for. It tells you the difference. It helps you to know that the fork probably should be in the kitchen, not in the bathroom on the sink, waiting to be used there, unless you, like me, sometimes taste food and walk down the hall and leave it there. And then but I know to take it back. I know that it's not an item that I want really to live in my bathroom. So I hope that helps. Memory loss that disrupts daily life. Things that you have learned, things that you're proficient in, all of a sudden now you have no idea how to do them. Challenges in planning or solving problems. That's a big one, particularly in this age and over the pandemic, where we've had to use this mode of communication. There's a microphone here. There's a set of lights here. This mouse is here. There's a lot of stuff around me that you don't see that is navigating this process. Behind this screen that I'm looking at right now is the Spreaker screen. Behind that is YouTube. And so being able to plan the steps to put that all together. I'm fortunate Leon does that for me so that I can go and put my makeup on and go to the bathroom before we come on the podcast. But at the end of the day, I know how to do it. Now, if I came in here and all of a sudden did not know how to manage the steps, I do have a cheat sheet, but I would also have to know where my cheat sheet was. And I would also have to know how to go down to the next step to call Felicia. So you see, your planning and your difficulty in getting out of a situation, you can't do that anymore. You're driving down a street that you normally drive down. All of a sudden, it's under construction and you're lost, even with the detour sign showing you which way to go. And that happens on an ongoing basis. That's why driving is one of the first things under diagnosis. Physicians are actually mandated now by law to contact DMV and say, this person now has a diagnosis of dementia, and you will be called in for a driver's test to ensure that you can navigate the road, because that is really, really important, because things happen so quickly. And if you do not have that memory about, the laws of the road, all of those kind of things. Something is that we know, like the fire engine coming, and that you're supposed to move to the right of the road, which I sometimes wonder why we don't remember that, but move and get out the way, basically. If you're having cognition problems, that could be very dangerous and scary for you, as well as for the fire engines and everybody else around you. So difficulty paying bills, monthly bills, following family recipes, like you have a family recipe that you've done, but following it the way you've done it forever and ever. So those kinds of things, difficulty concentrating and learning new things. Difficulty completing familiar tasks, same, planning familiar tasks. Trouble understanding visual images and spatial relationships, stepping down off of a sidewalk. Understanding the spatial relationship between the yellow spacing now that they have for you to go across that have the bumps on them. Or I know in Chinatown here in Oakland, they have the streets that crisscross and all of that. All of that stuff would be very difficult to navigate for somebody that was experiencing dementia or dementia symptoms, but not early on. It would be sporadic. So it would be things, all of a sudden you might be walking with your parent and you see them do a big step and you wonder, why are they stepping So why? Because it's the spatial. They're not seeing or understanding that spatial space, or they start walking with a shuffle. It could be Parkinson's and things like that too. But sometimes they start walking with a shuffle because they're trying to avoid falling, or they can't understand what's happening with the floor if you have tile that changes color or things of that nature. So that spatial visual images relationships gets really crazy, sometimes trouble with reading, and many times difficulty with balance. But again, all of these are age-related things too. So you must be able to see that they're going on in an ongoing basis, and they're affecting your activities of daily living. They're starting to take away your quality of life, and go and talk to your doctor, because some of these things are aging things that happen for other reasons, cataracts, all this other stuff. So you gotta, it's like a checklist. Okay, is it cataracts? Nope. Is it arthritis? Nope. So you gotta kind of, when you get to that phase, check it off from a health diagnosis, even though Alzheimer's and dementia is a health diagnosis, but you know what I mean, like a disease, like something that is age-related, an age-related symptom, look for that, and then see the difference and talk to your doctor so you can determine whether it's dementia, Alzheimer's, or, you know, like I have a knee that has a little arthritis in it. That's going to be with me for now, forever, unless they find a cure for arthritis. So make sure that we know the difference. New problems with words in speaking or writing. Are you having trouble getting the vocabulary, naming familiar objects, using the wrong name for something? Like someone, they wrote here, this is from the Alzheimer's Association, calling a watch a hand clock. You know, calling this a hand clock and not a watch, those kinds of things. So, or stopping in the middle of the conversation and totally forgetting what the idea was, and continuing on, repeating yourselves. So speaking and writing become a major issue. But sometimes trouble, having trouble finding the right word at the right time is just aging, or your brain moving too fast. So again, you have to just start tracking it to see if it's getting in the way of your presentations. As a storyteller and an orator, I would be very, I am very conscious of that I stutter sometimes, but stuttering is something I do, particularly if I'm tired. Anybody who knows me really well knows that if I'm starting to stutter, it means I'm tired. And so that's a symptom that I've always had. But if it starts to get to the point where the words are wrong, particularly in presentations that I've done 1,000,001 times, and all of a sudden the 1,000,002nd time I'm doing it all wrong, then I would know there's something cognitively going on, and I would have to go to the doctor and get it checked. Misplacing things and losing the ability to retrace steps. So you see, sometimes you misplace things, but going back in your file cabinet and retracing your steps is what we all do. And when we lose the ability to do that is when we really want to go, okay, what's going on here? Now I've really lost the item. I have no clue where it is. Or like me, I'm a hider of, I put stuff away because I don't like clutter. And so I have a tendency to shove stuff in drawers or in cabinets because I like clean. I don't like clutter. And so I have to remember, oh, okay, you threw it in that drawer. I have a lot of junk drawers. So I have to go around and look in my junk drawers, but I know where my junk drawers are. So if all of a sudden I didn't know, all of a sudden I didn't understand that I had junk drawers all over my house, because I do, then that would be a problem. Or if I didn't even understand that I threw stuff in baskets and all of that kind of thing. It's when any kind of memory or cognition moves you from the normal things that you were doing in your life and the normal things that help you organize your life, you no longer can use those things to keep you organized, and you have no idea that's when you really need to begin to think about having an appointment with your doctor, neurologist, and just do it. Just get a baseline, know whether something's going on or not. You have decreased or poor judgment. Individuals may experience changes in judgment or decision making. They may use poor judgment when dealing with money or paying less attention to grooming or keeping themselves clean. So one of the scenarios that I always use is somebody who always got their nails done, their hair, they were always dressed to the nine. All of a sudden you see a deep decline in that. But it could also be depression. It could be a lot of things. So making sure we really work with people and that we understand it may not be Alzheimer's, but it's all these things coming together. So it's not just one of the symptoms, it's all of the symptoms coming together and creating this cornucopia of memory loss and cognition decline. Withdrawal from work or social activities. All of a sudden the person withdraws in the break room. They're maybe sitting there, but they're not engaged in the conversation. They no longer want to go out. They stop doing the activities around other people. And a part of it is because they're slowly but surely not understanding what's going on in the conversations. They're not able to navigate the conversation from A to B to C, the topics as they change. And so they'll sit back and get quiet because they don't want to embarrass themselves, as well as they're still trying to take it in and figure out how do I engage in this conversation when I don't even know what's going on? And so you will see people withdraw when they're experiencing this form of dementia. But they're also become uninterested in things that they were normally interested in. Again, another sign of depression. And so we need to be able to navigate the difference between the two things, and they need to come, as I said, in the jar of all the other symptoms. And so the changes in mood and personality. Individuals living with Alzheimer's may experience mood and personality changes. They can become confused, suspicious, depressed, fearful, or anxious. They may be easily upset at home and with friends, or when out of their comfort zone. You all know that feeling, that when you're not in your comfort zone, you feel a little anxious. But can you imagine being in your home, being with your family, being with your friends, and all of a sudden that safe, comfortable place is no longer a safe, comfortable place, and you're trying to navigate this conversation, and the conversation very well may be about you and your family trying to decide whether the next steps, and you're like, wait a minute, they're talking about me, I'm sitting right here. And because you have not quite understood that you've been having these memory losses, or that people are noticing it, and you're still trying to hold on to your autonomy. And so those are the 10 symptoms. Those, you can go to the Alzheimer's Association is the best research arm for Alzheimer's. Their website is absolutely amazing. They have a piece there that I really advise everybody to go and look, where it shows you the brain. And I 3 pounds, your brain, I mean, I weigh 100 and something pounds. And can you imagine that 3 pounds of whatever you weigh is responsible for the activity and the execution of everything that all the other poundage does? The moving of your arms, the moving of your lips, your eyes, how you sneeze, how you cough, how you sleep, everything. So this 3 pound piece of glorious thing, color of Pepto-Bismol, looks, you've seen them in the horror films, dangly thing and going down, connecting the spine area, does so much for us. And so damaging it with environmental things, stress, all of that, really, I think we're going to find it's not just one thing, as we already know, and research has shown, it's not just one thing, but it's a cornucopia of things that create this disease and the symptoms of dementia. So what do we want to do? We want to get checked. We want early detection as quickly as we can. Oh my goodness. You see, this is why I think that something is going on. That's my phone talking to me over there. So just ignore it. I don't have no clue why she's talking. She's in my purse. See? All right. So get checked. Early detection matters. So the minute you start to feel these things, or experience these things, do not think you're a hypochondriac. Do not think that you're losing your mind. Go to the doctor, get it checked out, get the response that no, that's not it. So that you know that maybe it's just because you need more sleep. Maybe it's you need to get rid of some stress in your life. Maybe it's menopause. Maybe it's a whole bunch of things. And so we want to make sure that we know the difference between normal aging and the things that really are the symptoms of Alzheimer's or early onset Alzheimer's. So if you notice any of the signs that we just discussed during this podcast in yourself or another person, it can be difficult to know what to do. It's natural to feel that, wow, this is scary. I don't want to know this. I don't want to discuss this with anybody. We want you to be able to discuss this with somebody. Discuss it with a friend, a best friend, if you need to. Have them go to the doctor with you so you don't feel alone. But figure out what's going on so that you can move on knowing what's, because there are some drugs and pharmaceuticals out there that can help you in the early stages, meaning balance off, not stop you from progressing, but help with clarity, especially in the early, if you catch it early, and give you some time to do the 5 wishes, talk to your family, navigate what you want your care model to be as you progress with Alzheimer's or other forms of dementia. So let's get ahead of our aging and really begin to say, what happens when my cognition goes? What are the symptoms that I want to be looking at? What are the normal signs of aging? And we will continue here at Life is a Sacred Journey to bring you people that can give you insight and knowledge and learning and wisdom around all of this. And also, we will continue to raise up those things that are important about memory loss and caregiving. So let's go over the signs one more time. Poor judgment and decision making. Making bad decisions once in a while, as we said, though, can be just typical of humanity, of your humanity, of my humanity. But when it happens in a repetitive way, we need to seek a diagnosis and find out what's going on. Inability to manage your budget in a way that you did before. If you were never able to manage your budget, then you have nothing to worry about. But if you were a person that were able to manage your budget and all of a sudden that's something that you cannot do, it's time to have a conversation with someone just to make sure you know what it is or what it's not. Missing your monthly payments, losing track of the date or the season, that really is a heavy duty one. If you don't know that it's summer and you're wearing your winter coat outside, that's a sensory problem, and a sensory problem is a cognition problem, and a cognition problem could be Alzheimer's. Difficulty having a conversation, pulling away, isolation, not caring for your the beauty needs or your grooming needs or your hygiene needs. Sometimes forgetting what word to use, also a human thing. But when you do it in such a way where you're really losing big parts of words or substituting words, like they said, watch to hand clock, those kinds of things, and losing things from time to time is normal aging, and it's typical. But when you lose them and you're not able to retrace your steps and to figure out where you may have left it behind. So I hope this was helpful to you. I hope that you will sit down, and you can go to the Alzheimer's Association website, and they have all sorts of information available to you for caregiving tips, as well as I got this all from the Alzheimer's Association. You can go to the Alzheimer's Services of the East Bay website, and we too have the information about Alzheimer's, the signs and symptoms, caregiving, help and support. But please don't do this alone. This is a journey that you will need help and support, whether you're the caregiver or the individual being diagnosed with Alzheimer's or any form of dementia. So reach out. Know that there's information out there. I know you're afraid. I know it's scary. Every time I forget something, I go, uh-oh, what's going on? And as we get older, we are hypersensitive to our pain and the things that we seem to be losing. But let's live our best life for as long as we can, because aging is fantastically wonderful, and I just think we need the tools to do it in a way that is honest to who we are. And so Life is a Sacred Journey, we hope, is one of those tools that helps you and all of you out there in the Life is a Sacred Journey neighborhood community to navigate aging in a way where ageism doesn't exist, where you just look at yourself being your best self at whatever stage of life you are. So my name is Michelle Pope. I've been your host this morning. You hopped into the virtual neighborhood of Life is a Sacred Journey. Hit the share button. Tell somebody else you know. I heard on YouTube, if you hit that little bell, it'll notify you every time we drop something new. If you are somebody out there that feels alone and feels that you just can't live another moment, another second, another day, please get a hold of the National Prevention Suicide Hotline. We will put it in the chat area. Felicia will make sure it's there. We will always tell you that you matter, that the ripple of life without you will not be the ripple that will make something great happen. So you matter to the rest of us as a humanity. Every person that is sacrificed because we have forgotten how to love deserves a chance. So if you're out there and you're feeling like you don't belong, you're feeling like you're invisible and nobody cares about you, please pick up the 1-800, pick it up, call somebody. And I think there's a text number. We'll find it and put it in the chat. And next week, I'll make sure I write it down so I can just say it at the end every single time we come to you on Life is a Sacred Journey. If you're out there and you're a follower of Life is a Sacred Journey, please reach out to somebody who appears to be strong, appears to not need your love. Do it. Do it today. Do it now. Thank you, Nancy, for doing that for me last week. But do it, because we strong people need your love too. Then also reach out to somebody who you know needs a hug, needs a I love you, needs I'm thinking about you. Okay? All right. You know how I'm going to end it. If you're a part of the family, go hug a tree, pet a cat, pet a dog. Oh my goodness, pet a dog. Look for a hummingbird. Look up at the sky. Know that you are incredibly made and you are magnificent in every way. And we'll see you next week here on Life is a Sacred Journey, Friday mornings at 8 a.m. Be well, everybody. Peace. Oh, Super Bowl weekend. Have a wonderful time. One of my favorite artists of all time. I love Mary J. Blige. That's my girl. That's my homie. She's going to be halftime. I'm not watching the football game, but I will be watching the halftime show. And Snoop Doggy Dogg. Okay, you guys. Have a good weekend. Love you. Be well.